Welcome to St Michael's in St Albans, an ordinary, medium-sized parish church in the middle of England. And yet, the history of this place and the objects within it offer a unique window into the faith story of this land. We're going to reflect on 10 artefacts in stone, wood, metal and glass, which illustrate the cultural, political and economic tale of the English people. They show how a national identity has shaped and been shaped by the Christian faith. So let's go inside as we explore together the story of English Christianity in 10 objects. There's no better beginning for our story than these simple bricks that line a series of arches on either side of the nave, the main body of the church. They look a bit out of place, as if hanging in mid-air to no purpose. These bricks formed the original windows of the church as built by the Anglo-Saxons. In later centuries, the church was expanded, first outwards and then upwards, leaving the Anglo-Saxon windows stranded, high and dry, a scar on the walls from an earlier era. These bricks are a reminder that churches are always changing and evolving in response to contemporary need, art and ideas. But what's really fascinating about these bricks, used by the Anglo-Saxons, is that they were not made by the Anglo-Saxons. They are much older. These bricks take us right back to the origins of Christian faith on this site, and indeed in this country. These bricks were once part of an earlier building, the foundations of which lie beneath the church. That building was called the Basilica. It was the headquarters of Roman Verulam, then the third largest settlement in Britain. The Basilica was a massive building with a footprint 8 times or more larger than this church. As the civic centre of Verulam, the Basilica was probably the place where a man called Alban was brought for trial in the 3rd or early 4th century. He was charged and convicted with advocating an idea that was so explosive the Romans had outlawed it. Alban believed that a carpenter from 1st century Palestine was the Son of God, and that this carpenter had lived and died to transform the world. Alban was one of the very first Christians in the British Isles, for which privilege he was executed, perhaps on the site now occupied by St Albans Cathedral. Putting all this together, Alban may have seen these bricks, albeit in their earlier form in the Roman Basilica. The connection of this site with Alban, as well as the cachet of Roman imperial grandeur, accounts for why Anglo-Saxon Christians chose to worship here. Quite what happened between the time the Romans left Britain in the early 5th century and when this stone building was constructed in the 10th century, we don't know. Maybe the Anglo-Saxons worshipped in the ruins of the Basilica, perhaps constructing a simple wooden structure when the Roman roof eventually fell in. So these Roman bricks teach us that Christianity, although a distinct faith tradition, builds on earlier foundations. One historian has recently talked about 3,000 years of Christian history because of the way in which the faith drew on the Jewish roots of Jesus, its founder. The next episode will develop this idea further as we see how Christianity consistently interacts with the culture around it. When we examine an object which many think is Celtic, but which was made hundreds of miles from these shores.